perpetrated before anywhere else in the world. They have been perpetrated, regrettably, before in many other places in the world, etc., etc. I will bring my initial comments to a close in a few more minutes, but I want to address another aspect of our situation. We have, or at least I have, participated with many efforts of challenging Zionist intervention at the political arena, either lobbying parliament or demonstrations or sit-ins, being arrested, being harassed, being thoroughly beaten. And at the political arena, we are the weaker party. Zionist lobby has been for decades much more powerful than we have been. Its intervention into parliament has been more effective because politicians can be more readily bribed than judges. And again, there is a nuance there. I'm not in any way challenging that the legal establishment is neutral and removed from the overall system of state. But there is a nuance there. It's easier to bribe a politician or to intimidate a politician in many ways, either financially or by mobilizing the relevant constituencies to vote or not to vote for that politician. It's easier to intimidate or bribe a politician than it is to intimidate or bribe a justice. And the frame of reference of a politician, at least in liberal Western democracies, is being elected to office in general elections. The frame of reference, the normative, not always the effective frame of reference of the justice, is the law. And we all know, or most of us would know, that Zionist values and Zionist legislation and apartheid values and apartheid legislation are incompatible with the values of liberal democracies in the West. And it is this nuance, yes, liberal democracies are not socialist republics, we know that. We know that there's abject poverty in the United States, we know that there's racism in Canada, we know that the indigenous people of North America have been genocidally removed off the surface of the earth, we know that, but there is a nuance there which we have been late in utilizing. And the awareness that we can utilize the nuance and challenge the Zionist establishment through the legal system is progressively better and better established. And that is where we, our prospects of winning are much improved relative to a straight political intervention, for instance, addressing parliaments or political parties. We should intervene. We should be at Labour conferences. We should be at any other party conferences. It's not, I'm not arguing for an either-or situation, but the legal avenue has until recently been underutilized. I propose to embarrass a member of this audience. He's seated over there, David Walton, and narrate to you the story of perdition. Some of you may remember the case of Jim Allen's play in 2 acts, Perdition. It was designated for a presentation at the Royal Court Theatre, and 36 hours before curtain rise, the Royal Court caved onto Zionist pressure and removed the play. And the Zionist establishment accused Jim Allen of anti-Semitic attitudes, motivations, intentions, or whatever, and smeared the play as being anti-Semitic. The play has not and is not in any way anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic. The play is definitely anti-Zionist. And the import of the play was fairly quite simple. The import of the play was that in a situation of occupation, any people under occupation give rise to 2 tendencies. One, collaboration, and one, resistance. Any people, Palestinian people, Dutch people under Nazi occupation, any people under occupation give rise to 2 tendencies, contrary tendencies. One, in terms of my normative understanding, positive, and one, in terms of my normative, wholly negative. Negative collaboration, positive resistance, and that the Jewish people is no different than any other people. That under Nazi occupation, there was resistance, Warsaw Ghetto, and there was collaboration, for instance, Kastner. Now that is an anathema to a Zionist position. Zionist position is the Holocaust is unique to Jews. Zionist position was that a Nazi would not approach a Jew with a long barge pole, because a Nazi would be wholly anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic and would regard the Jewish individual as being contaminated. No, and the play was based on a famous pivotal trial held in Israel, the Kastner trial, and was to be presented at the Royal Court, and under Zionist lobbying pressure, removed. And Jim Allen sought support and assistance, and very quickly met the small circle of anti-Zionist individuals of Jewish origins and citizens of apartheid state of Israel. I, at the time, ran the Fatah office in London, Jerusalem and Peace Service. Fatah and the PLO until 1994 were regarded as illegal organizations, so I was the only one who actually could say that I know where the finances came from. All my colleagues couldn't say that they know, because they were not told. And we decided to defend the play and make sure that it is shown. And it was shown at Conway Hall a few years later. The Zionist establishment, in complicity with the Israeli government, took Jim Allen and well, I asked him, subject to the advice of a circle of people supporting David Walton as publisher of Ithaca Press, we decided as first step to publish the play. And the play was published. There was an attempt to suppress the publication, arguing libel. We removed the sections that were deemed libelous. They were not libelous out of the publication. We actually tore pages and stuck pages and had a blank saying excised, and the play was published and eventually shown at the Royal Court. They went to the High Court. They went to the High Court in the mid-80s, and they squarely lost in the mid-90s. It took 10 years to defeat them at a legal forum, but they were defeated. They paid costs and they paid damages. If I'm not mistaken, David Walton registered his house in the name of his wife, just in case we lost the case, yes, but we defeated them in law. It takes perseverance, some stamina, and courage. It's doable, but it's basically a project akin in temporal terms, akin to starting a PhD. Anyone who starts a PhD basically calculates that it takes 10 years between first registering to the university and getting the dissertation defended successfully. So I would very strongly support utilizing the nuance between Parliament and court, and go, in addition to straight political interventions, into legal interventions. It's costly, but I think there would be parties willing to finance the cost of legal intervention, and definitely the expertise is there. Moshe Machover is in London, and other lawyers, competent lawyers, are happy to contribute pro bono. And recently, again, apologies Murtaza for the embarrassment. Murtaza had the brilliant idea of establishing a J&F electronic book series. Volume 1 has been published. I have been editor of Volume 2, and assisted by Murtaza, Volume 2 is published. It's published by the Palestine Legal Aid Fund. And we hope that the Palestine Legal Aid Fund would be able to do exactly that, raise funds for legal aid in order to prosecute the JNF. I arrived here from Exeter and I did a printout. It's a 120-page volume. It's there as a reference for legal action against the Jewish National Fund. And I apologize for saying that that would probably be the last chapter of my intervention. There is an additional chapter, and that is Canada Park. Because Canada Park, to my understanding, is the underbelly of the JNF at this stage. There is a convention, an odious convention, that somehow pre-67 Israel is legitimate and post-67 occupation is not legitimate. And for pragmatic reasons, I would suggest that the legal